Hello guys, today we're going to talk about more structured kinds of data types that you will definitely be working with in Python. Take note, is it very compulsory to know this as like a professor and all that? Not necessarily, but you definitely need to have the understanding of these, otherwise you may face some challenges as you proceed later. Because everything you're going to be doing further on from here are going to be built on certain of these foundations. Other kinds of data types you will definitely encounter when you get to pandas and numpy are all built on certain of these understandings. Certain errors you may face would be avoidable or will be easily to debug if you have some of these understandings. So today we are going to be looking at these wonderful classes or data structures. We are going to look at lists, we are going to look at tuples, we're going to look at sets, we're going to look at dictionaries. So first off, let's have lists. So lists are a structured list of items. It's as simple as that. Now, should I keep using the word structured? Because you're going to find we are definitely going to encounter other structures that are more structured than lists. Okay, so at this point now I'm no longer going to use the word structured because I need you to understand that they are just a bit advanced than what we had with floats, integers, strings from our past video. Here, lists are, for example, I want to go to the grocery store to get some items. I would have to have those items, or I may need to have those items appearing in a list. That's simply what this is. So I want to group certain information in a variable, right? That's what we're going to be doing with these structures. So let's say we have several fruits and I want to put them together. Let's see, I have to put this my auto completion off because it's taking us ahead of our class. So let's have these fruits: apple, grape, mango, guava, and orange. So notice all of them are in a square bracket, quoted, separated by comma. They are quoted because they are strings, not because they have to be quoted, because I can also have a string, an integer in it, and it's going to be absolutely fine. So if I have, let me also add a boolean. I did mention about none in my last video. So none, that's why none. Right? It's a special kind of data type. We would of course encounter it in data in pandas where it's none, it doesn't exist. There's nothing there. It's like blank. It's like there's nothing in this variable. So there's like a variable, but there is nothing in the variable. Okay, that's what basically it is. Now, in our list fruits, we have apple, grape, mango, guava, orange. So now, instead of having a single variable, fruit 1, apple, fruit 2, grape, fruit 3, mango, fruit 4, and so on and so forth, we could arrange all these different fruits in a singular list and assign it to a variable which we call fruit. So if I run this, we now have fruits. Now, fruit is now a list, and if we check type, you're going to find out it's a list. Now remember I told us once upon a time that Python deals with data like objects, deals with values as objects. Now fruits is called a list. Different types of objects have different types of functions available to it. Different types of objects have different types of functions available to it. Now, what is an object? What is an object? An object basically is something that is created from a class. Bringing in another word now. What's a class? A class is like a blueprint to creating an object. A class is what's used to create an object, and we're going to come to that subsequently. But when we have an object, depending on the class of that object, there are different functions that will be available to it. For example, this is list. It's a type of object which is different from what you normally have in other kinds of objects, which we will see shortly. So if I do fruits dot append, so you can see the append function coming out, fruits dot append, and then we have banana, where append is the function that is used to append an object to the end of the list, as you can see here. So if I am appending banana, it means I'm adding banana to the list. If I run this, you'll now find out that we have apple, grape, mango, guava, orange, and we have appended banana to our list. So you can now see that there is a function called append available. Hold on a minute, let me put off. I hope that turns that off. Okay. Let's see. All right, so if I have, it's still there. Let's see, let me turn on off auto completion. I think it's another. I'm just going to have to put that off. I'm not very sure which of. Now if okay, I had that on, that's why you can't see. So first code. All right, so this is where we are. If that doesn't work, then it means there is another extension that I installed that I may need to uninstall later. Okay, that's a problem. So I have other functions that we could use, like the pop. So what the pop function does is it removes the last item on the list. So please take note what just happened here. When I ran fruits.pop the first time, it removed the last item on the list, which was banana. And then I've run it again the second time. It's now removed true as well. So you can now see that we have 86, 45.5 as the two last items on the list. Now there are several other functions that are available to list, and you can go on and try them out. If your autocomplete is on and everything is okay, if you do fruits dot, you can't have them on my own now because of this little challenge I'm having. You should see others that are available to it. I think insert is also a function that's available to this particular kind of object, where insert allows you to insert a particular item at a particular position, okay, index position. Now we're also going to look at in a separate video how to interpret functions, and that's going to be closer to, or maybe when we started for data analytics properly. Now let's see the next kind of data type that we have, which is the tuples. So we have the tuples. Basically, they are still a list of items. Okay, but they are not a list as per a list because they are ordered. Like lists are mutable, which means you could edit what you've already created. So just like how we could append banana to fruits, although we had already created fruits, tuples are not like that. Let's have a tuple of names. Now, tuples are created with your normal parenthesis. So if I have this, and I have Romeo, and I have Julieta, and I have William and Shakespeare. That's how we spell it. Now, if we see the type of names, you could see it's in tuple. Now, they are immutable, meaning once they've created, you can't append, you can't pop, you can't insert, you can't remove. Those functions are not available to tuples. The only way you could edit an existing tuple is to recreate it with whatever you want it to be. Okay, so they are immutable, they are structured, they are right. Basically, that's it. Now, the reason we use tuples is when you're working with a kind of data that you don't want to be tampered with in the process. Okay, you don't want anyone adding a new item, you don't want anyone removing anything. Just have this as it is. Then you would want to create that particular item as a tuple. Now, notice that let's see dot append. Now, this is going to give us an error, and it's suggesting Tammy. Let's run, and it's giving us an error. And now you have the attribute error. Okay, and the attribute error is usually dealing with when you're trying to pass a particular attribute to a class that doesn't have that attribute, to an object that doesn't have that attribute. For example, now tuples do not have the attribute append, which you can call a function. Okay, they cannot be appended, so it's giving you the attribute error. Remember, we've seen the name error, the syntax error, we've seen I mentioned the value error, and I think there's another one mentioned there. So this is the attribute error, that you're trying to tell a tuple kind of object to do something that it doesn't have that ability. Now let me also let us know this. I've been mentioning about classes, objects, and all that. So depending on what that object is, there are certain kinds of functions that are going to be available to that object. Okay, now those kind of functions are, some can be stiff to a particular kind of object, and you could still find others that are available in more than one. Okay, but in this case now, names does not have any of those functions. So you can see it doesn't have sort as well. Let's see the next one, which are sets. Take note, they are important. These functions are important, and you're going to see maybe subsequently I'll just do one or two things, and then you'll see why we do use some of these things. And just trust me, subsequent things you're going to meet later on, you would really need to know this. So sets are created with curly brackets. Okay, sets are created with curly brackets. So if I want to create a set of countries, I'm going to have, so let's start with the USA, let's have the UK, let's have my home country, let's have let's say Ghana, and let's have one more country, let's say Romania. So if you check the type of countries, you would see that it's a set. Okay, so if we do countries dots, or let's run countries and see. Yeah, what do you notice about sets? Notice how it has reorganized what we initially created and it's arranged them in an alphabetical order. So you now have Ghana coming first, followed by Nigeria, then you have Romania, UK, and the USA. Now, let's update that. Let me add USA twice. And let's also add maybe Nigeria once again. Now, I'm going to do the same thing here. Let's add, so I'm going to do it also for lists. Let's add Romeo once again. Okay, and let's do for fruits again. Let's add mango. So run fruits. So you could see apple, grape, everything appeared with mango appearing again. We've already seen that, so let's just return names. So you could see Romeo appearing again. They are unordered. It's not trying to order them. Now we've edited this. Let's run countries again. So you still have those unique values: Ghana, Nigeria, Romania, UK, USA. The duplicate values are not repeated because sets do not allow for duplicate. It only returns unique values and it makes sure that they are ordered. So you get the difference. Lists can contain number of items repeated. It has a lot of functionalities. You can work with them. They are mutable. Tuples are not mutable. Once created, you can only recreate if you find anything is wrong. Sets are immutable. You could also see that they do not allow for duplicates and they are very orderly arranged there. So let's have that. Now let's see, last but not the least, let's see dictionaries. And dictionaries are a pair of key and values, right? We call them key value pairs. They work in key value pairs. So they are used to save certain values to a particular key. Now, notice that what we basically have been doing here is to assign all these countries to a variable called countries. Now, in dictionaries, you sometimes want to assign a particular value to a variable, but the variables you'll be assigning them to are still together in a singular class. Let me not confuse us too much. Let's do capitals. Okay. So dictionaries are also created with curly brackets, and let's have USA. So each key is separated from its value by a colon. You have, I'm going to assign its capital is Washington DC. All right. Let's also have let's also have Nigeria. Its capital is FCT. Let's have the UK and its capital is its capital is London. I think there's a country that has multiple capitals. Let me just do okay, so South Africa has about 3 capitals from what I just wrote here, researched and wrote. So we have South Africa. Now the reason why I'm doing this particular example is to show that you can assign a list to a key, right? You can assign a list to a key. Now I'm going to have a list of values assigning them to South Africa. So I have Pretoria, also Cape Town, and last but not the least, Bloemfontein. Okay, so we have each capital assigned to a country. Now, this is what I meant. When we are talking about assigning, we assigned values to variables. We are saying that in dictionaries, when these variables are similar and you want to store these variables with their values, in this case now keys with their values together in one container, that container is going to be a dictionary. So this particular dictionary of capitals holds name of country, capital, name of country, capital, and where we had even multiple capitals, we assign them as values in a list to the country. So you could have name, you could have a keyword name, and then you have a list of names of people, or a tuple of names of people which you don't want to be mutable, or a set of names of people which you want to be ordered. Now, this dictionary is going to be the foundation of data frames that we'll be working with when we get to pandas. Data frames are built upon dictionaries, so you need to have certain understanding of how dictionaries work before you get to pandas. All right, so with this, if I do capitals dot values, you could see it gives me the values in capitals, which are Washington, FCT, London, which are the capitals, and then this list. Okay, so if I have capitals dot keys, it gives me my keys: USA, Nigeria, UK, and South Africa. Now there are several things we could do with all this, but this is just your basic introduction to what these guys are. They are fundamental to a lot of things we are going to be doing. Now, I just mentioned briefly that dictionaries are the foundations that are used for building data frames, which is what we are going to be using when we get to pandas. But pandas are not the only kinds of objects that we are going to be meeting in data frames are not the only kind of objects we are going to be meeting when we get to pandas. We'd also face series, we also meet indexes, which some are built on sets. So you have to have an understanding of these things. So you'll be more comfortable when you find out that certain things are not mutable, or they can be sorted or not sorted, or whatever they are. Just know that whatever you've learned so far are all a building blocks to what you're going to be practicing, even though they may not be showing up as frequently as you thought. They are more like your latent knowledge, things that needs to pop up sometime when you're in a fix for you to solve a problem or for you to understand what it is you're going through. All right, you've done so well so far. In our next video, we'll be talking about control structures like if, for, and while, and why do we use them. Yeah, before I forget, there are certain things we could also do with our list, like append, so on and so forth. But you could do what is called indexing. I think let's have that video before we go to having a video on control structures. See you in the next video, guys.